I recently got the opportunity to rap about my business. And let me tell you, it was a very eye opening experience. I'm Tina B, and I'm an intuitive communication coach. And I'm super excited to share with you what I learned from this moment when I stepped onto an improv stage where I got the opportunity, and literally the prompt was, who here has a career that they think people can get confused by? And I thought, well, this is a great opportunity to see how I talk about my business. So I raised my hand and I was selected to come up and talk about my business. And then these freestyle rappers were going to share what they thought rapping about my business. And then I was to correct them if they missed certain spots or were inaccurate. So, what I want to share in this little Facebook Live is what this moment in time about talking about my business taught me. Because I don't know about you, do you ever get nervous or weirded out when somebody asks you, well, what do you do? Talk to me about your life's work, whatever. It's so challenging, especially for some people when they are in the service industry. So what happened was I get on stage and I say, I'm an intuitive communication coach and I guide people from disconnection to be fully embodied, calm in their bodies to communicate with confidence and clarity. I hear voices going, what, from the audience. And it was really telling because I thought, uh-oh, is that too abstract, right? And what then's happening is a rhythmic pattern comes in one by one. A freestyler comes up and says a thing and rhymes, and then I find myself rhyming right back in rap, correcting them. And it was one person after another. And what I have found is when you get into this opportunity of explaining your business, what happens when you are not clear? Or you might be in a little bit of confusion because you have a lot of things that you do, a lot of services. You don't want to be put in a box. Because what I learned in this moment is that people are distracted. Oh my goodness, we are easily squirrel, 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 squirrel. So when we're distracted, it's really hard for us, of course, to listen and to listen well. So when we are distracted, and if someone's giving us like a big long definition of what they do, we shut down, we don't hear the rest, we only hear parts and pieces, we puzzle it together, and we kind of fill in the gaps ourselves. So what do I find myself doing that I'm learning in this 6th year of doing this business? Before that, I was a professor of all things in communication studies, and I taught public speaking, and I've taught for other people. I get them highlighted into the clarity. We tend to over-explain. We tend to talk about the process instead of what is the outcome that those people will experience. We get abstract. We might even want to just sound impressive or say what we think they want to hear so that we can land that work. Well, let me give you 3 tips to help you out so that you can be more clear in your communication about your business. The first of this is take time to sit with your outcome. What is it that you do? More importantly, what is it that changes for people? How do you help them transform? And in this case, in my work, the transformation comes from you get to communicate with such clarity and conciseness and precision and confidence that you make that impact you desire. Whether it's on a formal stage like TED or Keynote, or you're a leader organizing an agenda with a meeting, or you want to share your business story, whatever it may be, I get you there. I get you from the mindset of owning who you are and be as a speaker, clarify your message, and then have the appropriate mechanics. From then, it's like, how do we want these clients of ours to feel? Because obviously, people pay to get their toilet fixed. That's concrete. We have a leak or it's not working and we want it to work. So we know if we pay a plumber who is astute and knows their job, that at the end of the day, we're going to have a flushing toilet that works. I pay the money, I get the service. When you are a leadership coach or a business coach or strategist or whatever that may be, that's more thinking and it's abstract, you have to get as clear and concrete as possible. So you want to express what's possible. How will the person's life be easier? We pay for convenience and ease. That I don't do my own airfare for my upcoming trip. I have a beautiful travel agent that does the searching and gives me options, and I pick my option. I just don't want to get online. Some people love that. I don't. So that's what I pay for that service. So the first is sit with the outcome. Ask yourself, what is it that people will transform? How will they feel? What will make their lives easier? And then journal about it. Write it. Just do a brain dump. That's the first tip. Second tip, create that clear, concise bumper sticker, 5 to 8 words. What is it that you do for your clients in the work that you do? And I create little watercolor haikus. This is one that I created for someone who's in a beautiful, energetic Reiki business. And I put potential, promise, bud of possibilities, love, Albright you are. And ironically, this person's last name is Albright and brings the light out in other people. And so what I thought is, oh my goodness, I can create these beautiful watercolor haikus for people's essence as a speaker, their energetic field with color and words, and it's a 5-syllable, 7-syllable, 5-syllable container. It's contained, it's a creative constraint. Less is more. And so that makes it so much more poignant and powerful. It pierces the listening of your audience when you don't have all these words that they get lost in. And then finally, in addition to sitting with the outcome, journaling about it, brain dumping, and then create that bumper sticker, the very, very last one is then test your answer or what your business is with a loving, wise adult. Who are those core people? And generally speaking, you have about 5 that you trust them implicitly. They're wise, they're your truth tellers, your sense maker, who you can ask, what do you think of this? Where are my gaps? Is this murky? What needs clarified? And get their true, honest opinion. I love this moment where I had a couple of friends when one friend told me point blank that my voice message was not completely in alignment with my vibe. It was very professional. It wasn't as playful and spunky and enthusiastic. So I thought, well, that's interesting feedback. I'm going to ask 2 other people. And they said the exact same thing. So 3 for 3. I was missing that. When I heard my own voice, I thought, well, I can be professional. And in fact, if I'm talking about being an intuitive communication coach and want a client, I went into professional business mode. And then when I played and practiced with it, it was helpful because they were in the receiving end of it and they gave me that necessary experience of me. It's not bad, it's not good, it just is. So if you can get true on feedback from people whom you trust, that gives you the insight that is so, so helpful to move forward. So how do you shift from confusion to clarity? I'm actually teaching a really beautiful virtual workshop Wednesday, April 29th. I know it's well in advance, so you can put it on your calendar. We're going to be shifting our calendars here soon from 11 to noon Central Time, and it's from confusion to clarity, communication that makes people lean in. That's what you want, right? You want to make that impact you desire. Is how do you communicate in such a way that is grounded and clear and concise, and you get in your confidence? Because frankly, if you're a business owner, nobody's going to buy confusion. And that's what's helped me in a lot of ways. Is I was once a high school speech and English teacher. I worked in human resources. I've worked in nonprofit. I was a Creighton University professor. I also have worked at a for-profit, at a bank as a chief creative officer. So I have this myriad of experiences, even a Disney cast member coordinating parades. And what I have learned is that the importance of the being that we are, the identity that we take on, and that we own into our gifts. What is our passion? What is our skill sets? And how do we express it in a way that makes sense to the other person? Because if you are in a service industry, it's very different if you're selling. I used to live on a farm where we sold beef. That's a product. People know what they're getting. And then your goal is to tell the story of that product and what sets it apart. If it's grass-fed, if it's cared for in a loving, very sustainable way, that's going to set your product apart from other producers. When it comes to your service, I know that there's hundreds and hundreds of different communication, well, probably thousands and thousands of communication coaches out there. I know what sets me apart, and that is I have 30 plus years of education and skill and research that I have that established credibility. The second piece is I am very much a playful, purposefully playful person where it doesn't have to be painful to work with me to get into that confident mindset, kind of like a Jim Henson Muppets kind of vibe, where he showed up with love for human condition and he made Muppets. We're kind of all Muppets if you lean into that. We all have a bold gonzo inside of us. And then I am like Mr. Rogers, where I love you just the way that you are. I provide that safe container for the way you can express yourself, along with some fun humor like Carol Burnett, spiritual vibe as well. So with that being said, I want to extend an invitation because I get excited talking about all the things of how do you evolve from confusion to clarity. Join me Wednesday, April the 29th from 11 to noon Central Time. I'm going to put the link in the chat for you to explore that. And I want to end with a freestyle rap, and that is clarity. I feel like that's the right word. And so I'm going to create a rhythmic pattern and end with this idea of clarity. Clarity is a necessity. Clarity is a necessity. How do you get to being clear? You gotta get with it and be here in this moment. That is the start. You gotta really get to the part of what is the idea. It comes through. That is how you talk to you and them and they. It is okay to ask the questions for clarification. Sit with yourself and find that way to the way that you say, hey, this is what I'm about today. Things can change, but you gotta be clear, because clarity is a necessity. Clarity is a necessity. With that, I would love to have you connect with me. Message me in the DM if you'd like to just have a conversation on what confuses you. How do you show up in the being that you are? And I'll put in the chat that link if you want to check out my cool workshop, a virtual one for April 29th, so that you can evolve from confusion to clarity. Till then, remember to be you and be true. That's what makes you magnetic. This is Tina B.